Hi, I'm Nikki, and I remember the constant aroma of freshly baked bread from my childhood in a little house. After school, I used to love kneading dough with my dad, who had taken over the family bakery from his parents. It wasn't like my mom. She outturned her father as a real estate agent who she portrayed in racy outfits and high heels. "Nikki, come set the table." My mom called one night when I was 12 years old. At the time, I was scrawny, socially uncomfortable, and mostly concerned with reading. "Coming." As I drew down the corner of the page, I yelled. I heard them beginning up again as I placed the plates on the table. "Yet another lazy month, Tyler," Mom stated with a disgruntled tone. "When will you receive it?" "Oh, who cares? Grandma lost her cool. She should know what a failure her father is." In an effort to control my sobbing, I clutched the table's edge. We had several instances of Mom scolding Dad and Dad attempting to maintain peace at our house. Mom felt ensnared in a life she despised, so I understood it wasn't all about the money. "Nikki," a sound was made by Mom's canine. "Where's my wine?" My trembling hands made a mess of the tablecloth as I hurried to pour her a glass. Mom's pupils widened. "You are a foolish girl. Will you just sit there and do nothing?" Dad crossed over. "Joyce, it's only a small amount of wine. Not a problem." His mother gave him a sidelong glance. "You treat her too gently. I see no reason why she won't be any better than you when she grows up." I bolted from my bedroom and hid my head in my pillow. I didn't get why Dad tolerated Mom's treatment of him. I loved him so much. For my part, I figured out how to blend in, to be stealthy and unassuming. There was an unusual stillness when I awoke the following morning. Baking bread aroma is non-existent. I didn't hear Mom's heels. I silently made my way downstairs and discovered my pale-faced dad seated at the kitchen table. "Where's Mom?" I inquired, although I was already aware in my heart. I was given a note by my dad. The text was neatly written by her. "Tyler, I've had enough. It's Larry and me heading out. He has the power to grant my every want. This whole small-town thing isn't my thing. You are pointless in your search for me, Nikki. You have turned our daughter into a loser, Tyler. Farewell and farewell." Feeling sick to my stomach, I gazed at the note. Mom had departed. She abandoned us, describing Dad as a failure and me as being of no value in her last remarks. Court proceedings and emotional upheaval dominated the subsequent months. In his divorce petition, Dad sought the removal of Mom's parental rights. As we sat in the chilly courtroom, waiting for Mom, I clutched Dad's sweating hand. She was never present. My attention wandered while the adults conversed, picking up on terms like abandonment and unfit parent. After that, Dad gave my hand a little squeeze. A gentle "It's done, Nikki" came from him. "Your mother's parental rights have been terminated as a result of the final divorce decree. Right now, it's just the two of us." A mix of relief and sadness washed over me as I nodded. From that point on, things became more difficult. Dad dove headfirst into his profession, putting in countless hours at the bakery. I began to help out around the house even though I was just 14 years old. Upon returning from school, I would complete my assignments before beginning to prepare dinner and wash laundry. This was the way things were for a long time. Everything shifted once more shortly after I turned 16. Someday Dad returned home, appearing startled and melancholy. He sank onto a kitchen chair and murmured, "Uncle Ryan died." Tightly, I embraced him. "I'm so sorry, Dad." With wide eyes, he withdrew from my embrace after returning it. "Nikki, this is unbelievable. I was left everything by him, nearly $500,000. It's just the two of us. What am I supposed to do with it all?" However, Dad quickly figured it out. With some of the funds, he upgraded the bakery's equipment and added new items to the menu. Everyone was raving about our modest bakery after only a few months. Without our knowledge, Dad had expanded his workforce, extended business hours, and was soon opening a second facility across town. We no longer had to worry about money when I turned 17 because Dad had 3 prosperous bakeries. To devote more time to my schoolwork, I left my after-school employment. We went on a 3-week European vacation, which was our first true vacation. Mom faded into oblivion as the years went by. Dad had a few flings here and there, but he never appeared interested in tying the knot again. It didn't bother me because we were content the way we were. A flurry of cap-tossing and embraces marked the end of high school graduation. Everything that I had put in paid off. Going to State University to major in finance was my plan. Dad gave me a little box the morning before I was to go. "What's this?" I inquired as I retrieved a key from the box. My dad grinned. "An apartment near campus. It's your graduation gift. Forget about housing costs and dorms." Paralyzed with shock, I gazed at him. "Dad, I just can't. It's excessive." He disregarded my concerns. "Nikki, you deserved it. Proceed and bring me pride." College was a blur. I was hell-bent on making the most of the opportunity my dad had given me, so I dove headfirst into my schoolwork. I interned at several area financial firms in my spare time. I had secured a position as a junior financial analyst prior to my graduation. Standing in front of my apartment mirror, I straightened my blazer on my first day of work. Telling my reflection, "You've got this, Nikki," was my advice. Make Dad proud. Despite the difficulties, I thoroughly enjoyed my work. I put away and invested every cent of my bonus and salary increase. "Money makes money, Nikki," was Dad's counsel that kept ringing in my head. Make wise decisions. I was able to cash in on my investments by the time I was 34 years old because enough time had passed. In addition to the apartment I was renting out, I also owned 3 others, and they were all doing well. It was a good life. The turning point came with the game-changing phone call. "Nikki," Dad's voice was anxious. "Could you kindly drop by? I must speak with you." He was sitting at the kitchen table, looking as ancient as ever when I got there. "What's wrong, Dad?" Feeling a constriction in my chest, I inquired. He inhaled deeply. "My darling, it's cancer. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Everything changed. A low voice muttered, "No, it was me. This has to be a mistake." However, it was not the case. A year of therapy and highs and lows followed. Even though Dad was too sick to eat it, I made sure he had his favorite cheese soup whenever we had a spare moment. When I got there one brisk fall day, he was sitting in his favorite chair, looking quite serious. "Nikki, we really should have a conversation," he remarked, gently tapping the seat beside him. "The doctors say I've got 5 months, tops." With a shake of my head, I opposed it. "I don't agree with them. We'll seek out a different viewpoint." He delicately extended his arm. "No big deal, Nikki. It is now something I can accept. I'm going to sell my bakeries. You will be the center of attention. You'll be good to go forever." As I drew back, I wiped my tears. "I am not interested in receiving your funds, Dad. You are mine." Gently, he grinned. "I understand, my darling. However, this is how I will ensure your well-being, even in my absence." What followed was a priceless and excruciatingly agonizing 6 months. Despite our usual lack of focus, we managed to chat more than ever before. His laugh, the scent of sugar and flour that lingered on his skin, and every line of his face were all etched in my memory. He departed on a tranquil Sunday morning. The funeral passed in a flash. After that, I held Dad's beloved apron close as I sat alone in his deserted house. The attorney had previously completed the necessary papers, and my father kept his word and bequeathed the estate to me. I purchased 3 additional apartments using the proceeds from the bakeries. Just like my dad before me, I felt like I was creating something long-lasting. I had regained my equilibrium a year after Dad's death. I found fulfillment in my work and the responsibility of overseeing my rental homes. As far as I was concerned, I had finally found my new normal. Then my world was flipped upside down when I received a call. "This is your mother, Nikki. If you're available, I'd like to meet up with you when I return to town." I was carried away by my thoughts. I wanted to sever ties with the woman who had left us and never speak to her again. But there was also a part of me that couldn't help but be curious, the part that clung to the innocent girl I had been. The words "all right" escaped my lips. "Let's meet at Don Jose's Mexican restaurant tomorrow at noon." I arrived at the cafe early the following day, my stomach in a knot. She walked in at precisely noon. Of course, she appeared older, but her poise remained unmatched. A young girl, perhaps 18 years old, trailed behind her, albeit she was not alone. My mom saw me and ran over to help. "Nikki, my love, you are stunning. Moreover, here is Anna, who is your sister." A blow seemed to have struck me. "Is she my sister?" We took a seat, and Mom started to share her tale. She detailed her relationship with Larry, who left her shortly after Anna was born, their financial struggles, and her decision to return to her hometown in search of a fresh start. "I heard you have rental properties," she remarked, her voice conveying optimistic hope. I was wondering if maybe. She rambled on, but I understood her question. I glanced over to Anna, who was visibly uneasy as she stared at her hands. Thinking about Dad made me realize how important it is to be kind, no matter the circumstances. I recalled the frightened little girl who, like her, longed for her mother's return. The words "all right" escaped my lips, and flat just became available to me. "Who needs to leave?" Mom was beaming. "I am grateful. Obviously, we will cover the rent." Up went my hand. "No rent, just utilities for now." I kept an eye on Anna while we worked out the details. It seemed odd how young she appeared. I recalled being her age and felt disoriented and solitary following Mom's departure. "So, Anna," I asked in an attempt to come across as nice, "are you a junior in high school?" At last, she looked me straight in the eyes after nodding. Of course, it's strange to start senior year at a different school. Some empathy welled up in me. "Sure, I'll wager. Listen, I'm here for you whenever you need someone to talk to or assistance with anything, whether it's school-related or not. All right." Anna kissed me on the cheek. What a relief. That is very meaningful. Mom gave me another embrace as we walked out of the diner. "Nikki, you are quite special. Even though I'm well aware of how much ground I need to cover, I'm hoping we can begin anew." I was too nervous to say anything, so I just nodded. That night, as I slipped into slumber, I couldn't escape the uneasy sensation that things were going to take a turn for the worst. My mom was back in my life, and I gained a sister, for better or worse. What that implied for each of us could only be revealed in due course. Weird things happened in the months following Mom and Anna's homecoming. Almost as if nothing had happened, Mom reintegrated into her previous life after finding employment as a real estate agent. When Anna was a senior, she decided to attend the local high school. Uncertain about how to manage this new family dynamic, I maintained my distance. Occasionally, Mom would give a call or drop by. "Nikki, my sweetheart, I am eternally grateful for the apartment," she would exclaim with a bright smile. "You've been such a blessing." Her boundless appreciation made me uneasy, but I would nod anyhow. "No worries, Mom. So happy I could be of use." My careful friendship with Anna grew over time. I would provide her a hand with her math assignments or just sit back and listen while she articulates her goals for college. Having a sister was good on one hand, but the weight of the years we lost out on together was always an obstacle. After that, the day of Anna's graduation arrived. From where I sat in the back, I could see Mom's gleaming pride as she got her graduation. Just for a second, I allowed myself to fantasize about what would have happened if Mom hadn't departed. Unannounced and with a red face and fiery eyes, Mom showed up at my home the following day. She abruptly exclaimed, "We need to talk," as she pushed past me and into the living room. Perplexed, I trailed behind her. What's happening? She pivoted to confront me. Act intelligently. All 4 of those apartments are known to me, Nikki. I felt sick to my stomach. How did she discover it? And what about your other option? Maintaining a constant volume, I inquired. You've been keeping this information from us, she exclaimed with a piercing voice. Enjoying life to the fullest while Anna and I barely made ends meet. Anger was boiling over in me. Excuse me, you're living rent-free in one of those apartments. Would it not be enough? Half of those properties are mine, she spat out. It's me, your mom. I found myself laughing out loud. It was completely absurd. Look, you're not kidding. Do you recall that when you left us, you waived any claim to my life and possessions? Child support and parental rights are not recognized. A change occurred in her tone. Nikki, I implore you to consider Anna. She must collect funds for her college expenses. What if you were to sell just one apartment? When she started to say, absolutely not, I interrupted her. I am not responsible for Anna's education. What makes you so self-centered? She sobbed. And now, after all I've done for you? The final straw was that, when I asked, what have you done for me? Perplexed, I fixed my gaze on her. I thought you were saying in your farewell message that you were going to leave me and that I was useless. On the other hand, are you suggesting that you may spend a few months in my apartment without paying rent? My mother writhed as though I had hit her. She remained motionless for a while, her jaw moving in a fish-out-of-water pattern. Shortly after, she abruptly turned around and slammed the door shut, leaving no room for further discussion. My body trembled with rage and pain as I stood there. What gave her the idea? How could she attempt to con me in such a way after everything that has happened? With my head buried in my hands, I collapsed into the couch. I knew deep down that re-establishing contact with Mom was dangerous, but I had hoped, to be honest, my expectations were vague. My wrath subsided, and a profound melancholy replaced it. The woman who was supposed to be my rock and shield turned out to be an unknown somebody intent on taking advantage of me. Where does Anna stand? In regards to her, what was my plan? I saw the barista giving me odd looks 3 weeks after Mom's outburst while I was having coffee at my normal spot. While I was waiting for my order, I briefly caught a glimpse of a conversation happening at a table nearby. Are you kidding me? Despite having multiple apartments of her own, she is still charging her mother rent. I could hardly believe they were referring to me. I went completely limp. In contrast, I overheard more mutterings and side looks in the days that followed. It appeared that Mom had been rather preoccupied with telling everyone her warped version of events. After that, the tweet arrived. While during my lunch break, I nearly choked on my food when I saw it. Nikki, my daughter, makes a lot from her 5 rental units, but she won't even chip in to help pay for her sister's college. I'm barely making ends meet, and she's making me pay exorbitant rent. It breaks my heart that my own child can be so self-centered and greedy. Every one of the comments was devastating. What gives her the right to treat her mother that way? That person is absolutely awful. Everyone from long-lost acquaintances to former classmates shamed me for what they perceived as my avarice. It was as if no one had noticed or cared that this woman had left me when I was a little girl. My employer summoned me to his office at the one moment I believed things could not get worse. Nikki, we need to have a serious conversation with your mom about this situation, he stated. The company's image is beginning to take a hit. I could feel the veins in my face dripping dry. My explanation is ready, sir. Showing a hand, he spoke. I don't want specifics, but I need this fixed swiftly and quietly. This kind of turmoil has no place in our company, you know. Feeling speechless and helpless, I could only nod. Upon returning to my workstation, I noticed an email pertaining to unpaid utilities from Mom's apartment. Just fantastic. I contacted her with trembling hands. So, what's your desire? At one point, she shouted, In an effort to remain composed, I inhaled deeply. The utility bills for your apartment are still outstanding, Mom. Recall that we made a pact for you to handle those. Scoffing, she said, "Oh my gosh, you're really pulling it in with those apartments. You've got enough money to take care of a few bills." "That's not the point," I remarked, my tolerance dwindling. "We came to an understanding." "An agreement," she piped in, her tone distant and uncaring. "As in the promise to support your loved ones. For what benefit did that serve us?" I felt like everything was collapsing around me as I sat there, phone in hand. This was my payoff for all the good deeds I did. I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer despite my sadness. "You have every right to evict your mother," the lawyer told me as he reviewed my case. "You have provided her with ample notice, and she is not paying rent, and she does not have a lease." Nodding, I felt a mix of relief and nervousness. What do I need to do? I received a document from him. "This eviction notice is legally binding. Put it on her plate. We have the option to pursue legal action if she refuses to comply." I drove to Mom's apartment, which was actually my apartment, with the paper in hand. Knocking on the door made my palms tremble. When my mom spotted me, she opened it with an irritated expression on her face. "You it is. Have you finally had a change of heart over the sale of the apartment to fund Anna's college expenses?" "Anna has already decided on a school. Next month she must pay her tuition." Out of amazement came wrath. "Are you fooling me? So you're still demanding things after all this time?" "Stop being dramatic," she said with a sneer. "It's the least you can do for family." There it was. I presented her with the notice of eviction. "I am here. Your notice period is 1 month. A flush spread over Mom's face as she fixated on the page. Subsequently, she lost it suddenly. Through the apartment, her voice resounded as she yelled out, "You ungrateful little brat!" On repeat, "After everything I've done for you." I refused to budge. "Is that all you've accomplished? Are you saying that you're going to leave me high and dry? Practicing defamation against me?" Her hand shot up as she sprang forward. Her hand evaded my strike despite my recoil. On the contrary, she bit my shirt and spat abuses at me. "Listen, you're not important. A cold-hearted, self-centered." While reaching for my phone, I was able to free myself. "It's done. The authorities will be contacted by me." Despite her widening eyes, she persisted in yelling, her language becoming increasingly harsh. When the cops showed up, I was already trembling and my eyes were watering. As quietly as I could, I showed the police the eviction notice and explained the situation. The attention of one cop shifted to Mom. "Ma'am," he declared, "I suggest you calm down and discuss this civilly with your daughter." Mom had a sneer. "On a civil note with her. I can't believe she's attempting to force us to leave." The second cop looked over at me. "From a legal standpoint, this is a civil issue, Ms. Stevens. Outside of a court order, we are unable to remove her forcibly. You two should try to resolve things amicably, but if that fails, you can always take the matter to court." With a sense of defeat, I gave a nod. The smug expression on Mom's face as the police pulled away made me furious. "You aren't going to do it," she teased. "You don't have the guts to take your own mother to court." She had given birth to me, but she had never been a mother in her true sense, and I couldn't help but stare at her. Something within me became more rigid. With a firm voice, I said, "Watch me." I turned and strode away before she had a chance to reply. Behind me, I heard the apartment door slam as I made my way to my car. On the way home, my mind wandered to the impending court battle, additional drama, and excruciating pain. On the other hand, it could be an opportunity to escape her poisonous grip. On the day of the hearing, I entered the courtroom feeling queasy. Over there, I could make out Mom and Anna. Anna appeared as though she wished she could vanish, while Mom's eyes were red and swollen. Mom really went all out when the hearing started. While addressing the judge, she sobbed uncontrollably. "Your Honor," she cried out, My daughter has become so heartless. She's attempting to abandon her own mother and sister in the aftermath of all the help I've given her. When I couldn't control my nerves, I tightened my hands. My anxiety levels plummeted as my lawyer rose to his feet. "Your Honor," he started, his voice unwavering, "I would like to offer evidence that conveys an entirely different narrative." He detailed everything that had happened, including my mother's abandonment when I was 13, the revocation of her parental rights, and her lack of child support payments. In front of the judge, he displayed the unpaid utility bills and the rent-free arrangement. However, he had more to say. "Furthermore, Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Stevens is not in the financial situation she claims." With her eyes wide, Mom's head snapped up. "My attorney said Mrs. Stevens owns an apartment in another city, left to her by a former partner, which she currently rents out for a substantial monthly income." People in the courtroom went silent. A serious look crossed the judge's face as he turned to Mom. "Is this true, Mrs. Stevens?" Ma's complexion turned white. After several false starts, she said, "Yes, Your Honor," before finally speaking. When the judge handed out his ruling, his voice was icy. "The eviction has been granted by this court. On top of that, Mrs. Stevens will be required to pay rent for the months that she was a rent-free tenant. It is very terrible what you have done, Mrs. Stevens. I am closing this case." The resounding crash of the gavel's descent reverberated within me. That was it. I saw Anna as we were leaving the courtroom. I felt bad for her since she seemed disoriented and bewildered. She was not to blame for this. Disregarding Mom's disapproving look, I approached her. "Anna," I whispered softly, "I apologize that this has come to this. And still here for you if you ever need actual assistance. All right." With tears in her eyes, she nodded. "My apologies, Nikki. I had no idea." I went away from her with a sorrowful smile, a burden lifted from my shoulders. Over the subsequent weeks, Mom and Anna vacated my apartment. They supposedly moved in with Mom to her other property. Nobody bothered to get in touch with them. I didn't even bother to attempt. As I stood in the now empty apartment, a whirlwind of emotions flooded my mind. The relief I had felt upon Mom's return, the anguish I felt at her betrayal, and the strain of the court battle. Despite everything, I felt liberated.